Welcome back to the All Turtles podcast, a show about the future of work, the future of health, and entrepreneurs building the future with tech like AI. Today's episode is going to sound a little different. Due to the COVID-19 outbreak, Phil and I are recording this remotely from the comfort of our own homes. Today, we're going to talk about the impact of COVID-19 on the future of work. Hey, Phil.
Howdy.
How are things going? How are you doing sheltered in place? Are you in San Francisco?
I am, yeah. I'm doing great. It turns out that working from home and avoiding people and obsessively doing math is like sort of my jam. I'm like living the best version of my life.
Yeah. I feel similarly. My sweatpants are getting a little worn out. But other than that, which I think is a helpful tip for all those working from home, dress up like you're going to work. And I think you'll find your day goes a lot differently.
We should point out that this is we are broadcasting from the distant past of March 18th.
That's right. So who knows? I think we're releasing this this is out right the 25th, the week from now. Who knows where we'll be?
Yeah.
I think probably in a somewhat similar state, if I had to guess.
Probably. Yeah. We've been in lockdown in San Francisco for, I guess, a few days now. Yeah, I guess I'm lucky enough. I have a decent workspace at home, and it's been. I actually feel pretty productive. It's nice not worrying about the meeting time, the commute times in between meetings, all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, hard to see how it's going to go over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I wonder how this has already affected the way that we're working currently. Like, how have the work from home mandates changed things at All Turtles?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we've been pretty distributed for a while. So I think we had a good head start to this, and we decided to ask that most people work from home a couple of weeks before the city kind of shut everything down, just kind of figuring that something like this would happen.
Right.
So I think we were in decent shape. I definitely. It makes me wonder about a lot of things. Like, it makes me wonder about whether video is actually useful or not. Mm-hmm. Like, I've been doing lots of video calls, and I kind of realize I don't actually know if that, like, sitting down and like having the video of other people talking is the right experience versus something else. So I'm not sure. It's making me question a bunch of stuff, but I feel generally productive. How about you?
Yeah, I think same. If anything, I've noticed some improvements on communication. There's like, I wonder if just everyone is just starved for communicating with humans outside of the people that they live with, their partners and children and roommates. I just notice like little conversations that start on Slack and would remain asynchronous and probably be a little bit inefficient. Typically, there's like a more general willingness or appetite for picking up the phone and making some direct one-to-one calls and being like, let's just talk about this really quick. So I've, on one hand, the serendipity of being in the office is entirely gone, but I think in a lot of ways, companies get into bad communication habits in offices. And this is, I don't know if it'll be like a fundamental reset for us, but I've noticed some subtle changes that I feel like are good. Like I'm talking to my coworkers more with my voice than in cases where I'd just be chatting with them kind of inefficiently and asynchronously.
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to force myself to just over communicate at this point. I can't rely on running into someone in the hallway and nodding at them menacingly to communicate intent.
So what tools are you relying on more than others?
My tool set hasn't changed too much. It's still it's still Slack and Google Docs, probably the heaviest. It's definitely made me, like, if in the past I still hadn't fully made the switch from like Excel to Google Sheets, like this is the thing that forced me over, just because being able to work in real time with people online is just you need to do it. So I think moving everything over to Google, I've been doing a lot of Google Hangouts or Hangouts Meet or whatever it's called now, and it's fine. Although I kind of find for one-on-one things that I'm more likely to just do FaceTime or something like that from my laptop. Oh, I actually started using a thing that I thought was totally useless when Apple announced it. I think it's called Sidecar. It's the thing where, if you have an iPad and a Mac, the iPad, you can just set it up so the iPad becomes a second screen. And they kind of made a big deal of that a few months ago when it came out. And I was like, this is useless. I'm never going to use this. And it actually turns out I use it all the time because I don't have a big monitor at home. That's still at the office. So I set up my iPad as a second screen to my laptop, and it works great. I usually have all of my video stuff on that while I'm working on a dock on the computer. So hooray for Apple for releasing a useless feature a few months ago that's actually found new life in the new reality.
So you're saying Apple planned all of this?
I mean, that's what it looks like.
See, I knew I was an Android user for a reason. do you think this will have a lasting impact on work from home policies? Like how are things going to change for startup? I mean, for big companies, I think there's lots that's already in play. But what do you think will be the lasting impact on startups for this situation?
It just feels like there's just going to be lasting impact on everything.
Right.
From this. It definitely is going to make people question what the point of an office is in the first place. Like why commute so that you can sit by yourself? And yeah, our conversations in person actually more effective? I guess in some sense they are. But I would guess like should we go back to our office building full time when this is all over or not? Like I don't know. Maybe we should do mostly work from home, and then every couple of times a week, like have a nice space where we come in and kind of meet in person for what's required of that. But yeah, I'm not sure. It's also it's a pretty good time to be building stuff. The types of knowledge workers that at least a lot of startups around here typically have, which I realize is a pretty narrow segment of work, but we've got a bunch of people doing engineering and design and financial modeling, and all of that stuff actually works pretty well from home.
Right.
It's kind of interesting how so many of the tools that we're using now really just came out in the past like year or two.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like Figma. Like how can we live without Figma at this point? Like I'm just using it all the time with the distributed design team. And I forget when Figma came out, but I definitely wasn't using it 2 years ago. I kind of feel like had this happened literally like 2 years ago, it would have been significantly worse.
Even more of a disaster. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of impressed that the internet seems to be holding up. Again, at least a week in the past, on March 18th, the internet seems to be holding up.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen stuff with large companies experiencing outages, and major platforms like Heroku going down. But yeah, same here. Things seem to be fine in that regard. Which, as of the 18th, we're okay. I wonder where we'll be a week from now when this comes out. But as of now, it feels pretty fine. So now that more or less everything in the economy has come to like a screeching halt, what should startups or what should entrepreneurs be thinking about preparing for, doing differently now than say just a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, I kind of generally hate war analogies, so I tend to stay away from them. But I've kind of seen this floating around as sort of general advice to CEOs and founders that everyone's if you're a CEO of a startup right now, you're a wartime CEO. And imperfect an analogy as that is, it sort of makes sense. And being a wartime CEO is different. This is my third time, so I managed stuff through 9/11 and the 2008 financial crisis, and it actually feels kind of familiar. Like I have the same feeling of what it feels like to run a company, a relatively small company, in, for lack of a better word, wartime. And it's interesting. It's not worse in every way. It's better in some ways. Maybe that's just like my personality type, but it's a lot more clarity. Like I'm less worried. There's less malaise because it's very clear what to do. Existential risks are in some ways easier to deal with than non-existential risks because it's such a clear success function. Like you succeed if you come out the other side and everything's fine. And I just think as long, realizing that as quickly as possible, that like things are different now and will be different for a while. And just like getting rid of the getting rid of the fantasy that it's all kind of a dream and you'll wake up any day now and things will be back to normal. Like that's unlikely to happen. And you just have to be clear about what you're supposed to do and what you're trying to optimize for, and do that. And it feels okay. Like it feels like there's something cognitively to be said about having that kind of clarity that tends to kind of focus the mind. So yeah, to me, I'm like, oh right, I remember this feeling. I've only ever had this feeling, 2 previous times in my life, and both of those turned out, fine. In terms of both companies survived and did well afterwards. It was a difficult process to go through.
I mean, looking at the 2008 example, if anything, a lot of really important companies kind of came out of that free fall. I think this was something you said in the office or on Slack to the broader team is, when things are bad, it's a really good time to build things. When things are good, it's a good time to sell things. but when it's in a downturn, it's a great time to see what's available, what people need.
Specifically, there's stuff that's just going to be, a lot worse right now. Like fundraising is just going to be difficult. It just is. And it's kind of made doubly difficult by, I think, the way that most VCs behave, which is they're not going to do any deals, but they have a huge amount of time on their hands all of a sudden. So they're going to take an endless amount of meetings. They're just not going to write any checks, for a while, for some amount of time. And some will start, hopefully, in, no more than a week or two, but it may take longer. But I'm kind of curious to do this. Maybe once this is all over, I'll actually go back and do this. But I kind of want to, in a few months, if things are back to a reasonable reality, I'm going to go back through like Twitter and Medium posts, and I'm just going to see like all the VCs that over the past few weeks and the next few weeks are saying how they're open for business. And I'm going to see how many of them actually wrote checks in March or in April, because I bet it's going to be very few of them. But
sure.
Some of them might, which would be great. And this definitely happened in after 9/11. I remember this, and in 2008, there was like a lot of talk about how like no, we still want really amazing founders, and yeah, they do, because that's their job. They don't want to admit, they don't even want to admit to themselves that they're just not going to make any investments while things are frozen, and they have plenty of time to take meetings. So kind of one of the things that being a wartime founder is different is, VC's just a lot less useful to you than they used to be. It's going to come down to what can you do yourself. And, in Japan, they have this thing, called the first penguin. Have you heard about the first penguin?
No.
Okay. So it's this metaphor, the first penguin. There's like when you see like nature documentaries, there's like a bunch of penguins and they're all like clustered on the edge of like an iceberg, and they're like, they kind of want to jump, but the water's cold, and they're all just like afraid and kind of standing there huddled. And then, one of them finally jumps, and then the rest of them come in, afterwards. And so that's the first penguin. The first penguin is like the first one of them that kind of jumps in. And it's seen as like as really like a sign of confidence, a sign of strength. There's like lots of investors, business people use this as like a positive example.
Sure.
Like one of our investors, Digital Garage, one of our partners, that's like their whole thing is like be the first penguin. They kind of see themselves as the first penguin. And like right now, all the VC penguins are definitely like standing around on the edge.
Yeah, you do it.
Yeah. And they're waiting for that first penguin, and someone's going to do it. Someone's going to be the first penguin, and deals are going to start getting done. And yeah, I'm not sure if the first penguins make particularly successful investors. I think maybe you kind of want to raise money from the third penguin. But the first penguin definitely plays a very important role. So it'll be interesting to see who starts doing this and how it develops. But one of the main things about again, I hate using the metaphor, but being a wartime founder, a wartime CEO is like, you just got to be realistic about what's going to happen and what's not. And what's not going to happen is a whole bunch of new money over the next couple of weeks while things are still extremely unclear. And so just because you can get meetings doesn't mean that you should take them, because you've got more important things to do. But we'll see how that plays out.
Okay, cool. Celebration of risk. I'm hoping, and I'm seeing this in little pockets. There's a couple of friends of mine have assembled like 30 hackers in a big building. Maybe not observing social distancing, but are working on just building tools and services and cobbling together all the different information out there on coronavirus and trying to invent new services that we'll need. And maybe this is a good time to hunker down and do some of that work.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see what kind of safety net comes in place from big companies, from startups, from the government. It is a really good time to focus and build things like this. This clarifies the mind. It is better to build things than to hoard toilet paper.
Oh gosh.
But we'll luckily a lot of people have at least some people have the safety net to be able to do that. Not everyone does. But yeah, the world is going to need all sorts of new stuff. I also think it's interesting how there's in the first couple of weeks of the outbreak, I was seeing a lot of stuff on social media from startup people, commenting on things and various how this is going to go, how that's going to go. I did it myself a little bit, not so much on social media, but among friends in the company, and it kind of made me think well, how do we know any of this stuff? What makes startup people, founders and VCs and investors in any way qualified to comment on this stuff? And then I realized that, well, actually, in a not trivial way, a lot of us have decades of experience with the other kind of viral growth. We've all been obsessed about exponential growth and staring at those numbers and thinking about viral coefficients of our stupid apps. And yeah, it actually turns out the math works exactly the same way.
Right.
So it's kind of funny. We've built up this expertise around Silicon Valley of people who kind of fundamentally understand exponential growth in a way that the vast majority of even smart people in the general population just don't. Because where do you apply that in life other than to, projecting your hockey stick, eyeball growth to raise money? So we've been repurposing our ill-gotten skills to hopefully more useful endeavors.
Right. Yeah, you wonder if the memes about exponential growth are just taken an entirely different way moving forward.
Yeah, we definitely need to change some of our language a little bit.
One of the weird or frightening things for me is just the truly unprecedented nature of this. I know just personally, what I've done is just reached out to elder family members and friends. I have a bunch of old friends and mentors, people who have lived many decades longer than me. And everyone is kind of nervous that the sheer unprecedented nature of something like this. So it's really hard to say where we're going to be on, right now it's the 18th, where we're going to be a week from now, or, when the next couple of episodes that we do on this topic come out. It's extremely unnerving.
See, I've taken the opposite approach. I'm just out of an abundance of caution, just in case you can spread the virus, over FaceTime. I've been avoiding talking to my parents.
There you go.
I just want to be doubly sure. I should point out that obviously, A, I'm a terrible person, and B, I'm joking.
Right.
So that it doesn't get taken out of context. I actually have been talking with my parents more frequently than I used to, but it used to be almost never, and now it's more frequently than that. So I think this is generally good reminder to connect with people.
And in terms of opportunities, for not just for startup executives and entrepreneurs and investors, opportunities for just more generalists working in the tech industry. There's so many ways you can upskill, from taking Ivy League courses to a bunch of these companies are offering all these services for free now. You can do all of Salesforce training for free. I know LinkedIn's doing all their learning platform for free for a couple of months. Code Academy is going to be free for students, especially any families impacted. So, hopefully that we there's people can still remain and feel useful and potentially up-level themselves over the next couple of months.
Yeah, there's another way of kind of thinking about this from a startup perspective, from an entrepreneur perspective is, I've been saying for a long time that you shouldn't work on something unless unless you were going to still work on it, even if you thought that you only had a year to live. Don't do anything in general. This is just general purpose advice, right? That you wouldn't do if that you would do differently if you knew that you'd be dead in a year. Just because if it's if it wouldn't be worthwhile, then why are you doing it anyway?
Right.
And I think there's a way to take that to a next level in terms of what you're building. Don't build stuff that the world doesn't need in a crisis or in a situation like this. If you're working on something relatively frivolous that only make sense when people have like nothing to worry about, then yeah, maybe work on something else. Not even right now, just like in general. Like
Yeah.
it would be a healthy change in general if the percentage of startups that got started around really trivial ideas that no one actually needs decreased a little bit, and the percent that were solving real problems in the world went up. And obviously, there's always room for things that are that are entertainment, that are distractions. There's room for frivolity at any time, but I kind of think if you looked at the average thing that a startup was working on over the past couple of years, like a lot of it was pretty low quality and not unnecessary. And maybe this will at least for a while condition people to tackle more fundamental things. And
Yeah.
if it does, the world will be much better off when we're out of this. And let's be realistic. Like everyone is like, we're gonna get through this. This is not a existential world-ending thing. It just isn't. It's just gonna suck for a while. And yeah, I mean, as they say in the Navy, maybe it's the Navy, maybe it's the Marines. I don't know. Maybe it's a sports ball thing, but you gotta embrace the suck.
Yeah.
But it'll be over, and people will be fine. And hopefully, if we've embraced the suck correctly, it's better when it's over than it was before it started.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Well, cool. I guess that's it. I mean, stay safe out there, Phil. Stay clean. keep washing your hands. I got to get back to work. I don't know about you.
This is a great opportunity to sign off with something that I've been wanting to say for forever, for decades, my whole life. I've been wanting to use this in the appropriate context, but it's never been an opportunity. I'm going to take advantage of it now. But
floor's yours.
Be careful out there.
This podcast is a production of the All Turtles Worldwide Media Empire. We recorded this episode at the Union Street Studio in San Francisco, California. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for future episodes, send us an email to hello@all-turtles.com. Marie reads every message. Thanks to everyone who made this episode possible, including Jim Metzendorf for editing, Marie McCoy-Thompson for producing, Chris Plug for his audio expertise, Micah Rivera for our artwork, and Matt Armerman for our theme music. On behalf of Jessica Collier, Phil Libin, and yours truly, John Cifuentes, and the rest of the All Turtles team, thanks for listening.